Keith Smith, good morning. Jeff Gaffney, good morning. How you fellas doing?
Morning. Jeff, there's about 3 people watching this that don't know you. Let's start off with introducing yourself. And I did not know you were the highest point scorer in UVA soccer. So
we try to keep that a secret. Not many people know it, but it's kind of another lifetime ago. But
we all have one of those.
I'm known around the community, I guess, as the CEO of Real Estate 3. I've been with the company over 30 years, but what really makes me famous is that I'm married to Dr. Mo Gaffney. Have a wonderful wife who spent the last year as the principal of the Covenant Lower School. So I got very involved in that community with my wife. We have 4 children that we've raised in Charlottesville. 3 of the 4 went to UVA graduates. The 4th graduated from Hokie, Virginia Tech, and so I am Hokie friendly. It took me a little while on that, but I am Hokie friendly, and just love Charlottesville. I've been in real estate, as I said, for over 30 years. Love it here. It's a great community, great place to raise a family, and thanks for having me on the show.
It's an absolute pleasure. We're titling this Lessons from Legends, and you qualify as a legend. Plus, you got legendary hair, man, which we talk about regularly on this show. So we wanted to kick off a little bit about Glenmore. We kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a specific subdivision on that end of it. And can you give us...
Well represented on the set right now.
Well represented. Can you give us like a quick synopsis of the history of that? Because that goes back quite a while. And, just a couple of minute or so kind of thing.
Okay, you'll have to cut me off because I love talking about Glenmore. It has a true family history for me. My wife's father, the late, great Frank Kessler, was the developer of Glenmore, and what an entrepreneur he was. And Glenmore was kind of the culmination of his real estate dream. If you go back in his life, he was a hard-working guy from New Jersey, came down to Charlottesville on a football scholarship, great big man. Got into the restaurant business in Charlottesville, one of the ones many of our listeners would know. He owned the Virginian for a period of time while he was in school. There's some stories about that. Just by the way, the reason he got into the restaurant business, because if you wanted to sell beer to the fraternities, you had to own a restaurant. He figured out that formula, and he was a big enough man. He's the man that can carry that keg on the shoulder. Big man.
I met him a couple of times.
Hard-working man, very passionate.
Yep.
But he married a wonderful woman from Charlottesville, Peggy Burkhead. It was obviously Peggy Kessler. And the two of them made a great team. She was into the dog. She was into the breeding. And she made that a business. German Shepherds. She ended up Corgis, of which we have one that is somehow connected to her breeding. She's also passed away. But the two of them made it an amazing team. And so I had to mention her as well, because Frank was the one with the vision, but Peggy was the one who was kind of the co-pilot who helped him keep everything in check. And long story short, he transfers into the real estate business in the early 80s, and he worked with a lot of great people. Bill Howard is one of them that he worked very closely with. Lenny Mayu is somebody he worked very closely with. Steve Runkle, Charlie Armstrong, Art Pearson. The list is long, and talk about legendary people. But he founded Real Estate 3, grew that company, got into the land development business. His first big play is Forest Lakes up on 29 North, 1,600 homes with a swim and tennis club. But it didn't have the golf. His oldest daughter, Candy Comer, was a professional golfer. Frank goes with Candy to all her golf tournaments, primarily in southeast USA, so Carolinas down into Florida. While he's at these different country clubs, he's taking notes. I like this, I like that. He loved the equestrian field that some of these communities had. He loved the private country club, not semi-private, not public. We can get into more of that later, but Glenmore was private country club, members and guests only. He found that down in Boca Raton. And so he took essentially his greatest hits, his vision, and he found Glenmore, the property. It was 1,600 acres. It was just a farm for sale, not in the growth area. Len Mayu shows it to him. Bill Howard has a part in the transaction. The Jessup family were financial partners in the acquisition, and he ends up purchasing what I think still is the most beautiful piece of property that I've ever walked on. Buys this property, and being my father-in-law, he taught me a lot about the business, and he shared his vision. I'll bring this to a conclusion in just a second, but he drives me out in his blue Suburban, which many of our listeners or people that are watching the show had been in that blue Suburban for the tour. He drives me out to the spot where the country club was going to be, and he looks overlooking Monticello, overlooking the Rivanna River, and he says, "This is where I will build my club." I can go on, let you ask any other questions, but he ends up getting, this would be a whole nother story. He and Steve Runkle had to work like crazy to get the property into the growth area.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was not, so it had to go through the rezoning, and so he took a chance buying a property not in the growth area and going through all
Which is not normal.
No, it's usually the other way around.
It's usually the other way around.
You'll appreciate this. The member guest tournament's happening right now. The guys just put on the feed. We're watching Jeff at the member guest tournament right now, talking about Glenmore.
Yes.
It was awesome.
Yes.
I love social media used for the good. Keith, you got something on your brain over there.
Yeah,